All right, ladies and gentlemen, Prydwen has just had their latest second half of 3.2 update to their tier list, and I gotta say, I feel like there are some people that are maybe not very happy with it, because this is what the update is looking like on the Wuthering Waves Reddit itself. It only has like 540 updates, only 160 comments, when it was 13 hours ago. And so why don't we go ahead and investigate what exactly is going on here? Because I've heard a couple of people saying that this tier list update has been one of the wackiest ones ever and doesn't seem to make that much sense with how some of the rankings have shifted around. So we're just gonna go ahead, pop ourselves on over to here. We're gonna see that the update was actually made today. That's European, by the way, for all my American viewers. Yeah, we know the right way to write dates. Quick thoughts to preface this changelog. Chacona's release hasn't updated the meta too drastically yet. The main benefactor of her release right now is Phoebe. And while she is a side grade or an upgrade to several characters and gives more options to the Frazzle archetype, it's clear that the Erosion team isn't fully complete yet. Cartithia being the potential candidate in 2.4 as she is of the Arrow element, and her Echo is on the Arrow Erosion set. This is why you'll find Arrow Rover's tier list ranking unchanged, because they're still kind of fucking bad, because they have no sequence nodes and no weapon refinements, and their strength is inherently tied to those. However, Zani's release did in fact shake things up, following further testing from our team. A lot of the DPS ratings in Tower Adversity were shaken up as a result of this. Read more to find out, and we definitely will. Let's now start with the Tower of Adversity changelog. Chacona has been added as a tier 0 hybrid, so best of the best. We saw that in the Reddit post, though. Chacona makes a shocking entrance as a T0 character when the Erosion team isn't complete yet, which is where I'm a little bit skeptical, a little bit interested, because I have playtested her, and while she does feel good in a lot of ways, I do feel like there's something missing. This is for a lot of reasons. Quick rotations, good team flexibility, good damage output, I agree with all those, good free-to-play weapon choice, very true as well with Static Mist, ease of use, doesn't care about needing to dodge. She does have some cancels as well to optimize her rotation, but even if you don't do them, it's not a big deal. And all of this being nearly fully accessible at S0. She makes DPS Phoebe's damage relevant enough to stay in tier 0. She pairs well with Gian, who still has strong performance today. Very true. She's usable with Zani, who's also in tier 0. And we can only expect her placement to be cemented further and her to only become better as the Erosion team actually gets completed. I think that this is a relatively fair take. I guess the perspective of she's a very valuable unit in how pulling her will enable so many other members of your roster that you might not have gotten the other pieces for. For example, Phoebe and WhiWa feels way better after you've pulled this unit. But I would say in the TOA, Kachona is not as relevant for Phoebe, but maybe that's something that'll actually be more relevant later. Jinxie has dropped down. She used to be tier 0, ladies and gentlemen. She is now tier 0.5. And she's had the expert tag +1 added. So functionally, she still has the capability and the strength to be a tier 0 unit, but you gotta play her well. That's what the expert tag basically means. We'll make something clear before discussing her drop. Jinxie is still one of the best DPSs in the game. She got the expert tag +1 for a reason. If you've ever seen a top player use Jinxie, you'll notice she's able to access her damage very quickly with lots of animation cancels and swaps. She has amazing quick swap usage with characters like Chang Li, and overall, she's a character who performs much better in practice than on damage calculation sheets. With that being said, for our core casual audience, she does fall behind the newly buffed Phoebe via Kachona, the new best DPS Zani, if Phoebe is considered as her teammate, and Carlotta, who had already dethroned Jinxie on her release as the best DPS at the time. Jinxie dropping down to tier 0.5 will, however, cause other characters to drop as they simply aren't on her level. And so a lot of people are getting dropped because of this. I would say that, yes, if you have Zani with Phoebe, she does, I think, deal the most damage in the game, but definitely not at the levels of like 15, 20, 25%, whatever the numbers are getting thrown around right now. And Zani's best comparison is likely with Carlotta, and I think for most players, Carlotta is going to clear faster than Zani. Pretty much I would say in like 90% of circumstances, you take the random Joe off the street, their Carlotta is going to do better than Zani. Pretty much 90% of the time. Because, let's be real here. Yeah, Carlotta's the easiest fucking character to play in the game. And also has, I guess, the second highest damage. But most of the time, you're not going to be able to access all of Zani's full potential unless you're playing this game like a job. But then you have other concerns than what's on a tier list if that's what's happening with you. Jinxie dropping down does make a decent amount of sense, given that she's still tier 0. You just have to play her a little bit more sweaty to be able to access her full potential. And I think that's something that's fair to say, because the difference between like a very sweaty Jinxie and one that's just like, you know, being played where you like play her with like a Jeja or a Cantarella and then just do her full attack chains, you're not able to do all the crazy shit that she's fully capable of. But once again, it does take quite a bit of time to play Jinxie in that way. We got Zhang Liao dropping down from tier 0.5 to tier 1 with the expert tag added. Some of our readers might remember we discussed Zhang Liao getting an expert tag in one of our past changelogs if he were to drop. Due to Jinxie causing casual Zhang Liao to fall to tier 1, where he's closer to his composition than in tier 0.5, he gets an expert tag due to his ability to swap cancel a ton of his kit with characters like Shang Li. He's a little bit like Jinxie in that regards. And the thing is, hypercarry Zhang Liao with like a Yinlin is not actually that strong. It's not actually like that crazy good, if I'm frankly being honest, because Yinlin's kind of bad, and Zhang Liao's like hypercarry damage isn't that crazy either. Because the main reason is that his rotations take a really fucking long time. His rotations deal a good amount of damage, but it takes a long time to do it. Simply because that's just the design of his kit. And so when Zhang Liao is played in Quick Swap, you can leverage his long rotation time to deal damage on another character. And that's kind of like how it balances out in Quick Swap, and that's why he's tier 0.5 when played like an expert, because you need Quick Swap to sort of elevate him back up. So Quick Swap turns his weakness in hypercarry teams into a benefit in the Quick Swap ones. Overall, if you learn Quick Swap, Zhang Liao will be top tier even to this day. If you don't and play him casually, he's still super casual friendly, as it's very difficult to get hit with him due to his enemy slowdown ability. He slows down the enemy, but he's slow himself, and he retains very good damage. Cool. So, Havoc Rover has been dropped down from tier 0.5 to tier 1. Similarly to Zhang Liao, Havoc Rover is only dropping due to Jinxie being in tier 0.5 now and pushing them down. No other factors. We considered giving them an expert tag too, since they have higher room for optimization and quick swapping, but typically that's reserved for speedruns, beyond our scope of what qualifies for the expert tag, because it's just like, it's like crit fishing and like reloading like 400 times to make sure you crit on like every nuke, and you have like 50% crit damage, or 50% crit rate and like 300% crit damage, those sort of builds, which leads to bad DPS for the sole purpose of clearing the tower in 2 minutes, which is what our tier list is based on, so they won't be getting one. Now for the most controversial change, and probably the one that I'm going to go to war with on Prydwen for, Jian's expert tag +1 removed. Jian's most optimal playstyle won't have him perform to the likes of Jinxie and Camellia, even though he has a high room for optimization, much like Encore. When optimized, he retains amazing performance, however. So if DPS rankings change once again, he might see his tag return. Yeah, you better cover your ass, bucko. Just put him in tier 0.5. It's fine. Just put him there. I'm pretty sure an optimized Jian will perform at the same level or better than a Giga Casual Jinxie. That's just my thought. I'm pretty sure it does. Like, think of like the most Giga Casual Jinxie. You're waiting for the full forte before every beam, and then you have Jian like swap canceling his rotation buildup. That's what the expert tag is for. That's what the expert tag is for, guys. Encore's expert tag is also removed. Same reasoning as Jian. So yeah, maybe they'll come back. Maybe Jian will finally get his 5-star. Okay, you could also think about it this way. Jian is definitely tier 0.5 or even above. Once that motherfucker gets a 5-star limited support, bro is still using Mortify. He's still using Mortify. He still has his 1.0 teammates. Bro, just give him his 5-star sub DPS. Think about it this way. Zhang Liao is tier 1. Bro is tier 1 with his 5-star limited sub DPS. He has Yinlin. Jian's tier 1 without it. Now for the Whimpering Waste changes. Kachona's added as a tier 0.5 DPS. Kachona with Absolution Phoebe is amazing. We tested it out. It's very good. She solely enables her performance in WhiWa versus multi-wave frazzle application. Kachona with Zani is great even though it's no Phoebe. It's alright. Kachona with Jian is entirely viable and performs well thanks to her ability to group enemies, but Jian also does it too. Overall, very firmly placed tier 0.5 characters. Works with some of the top DPS units in the game, with added future potential when the Erosion team is complete. She's got a bright future. I agree with her, right? She has very easy access to her grouping, and I'm quite certain because of how strong her heavy attack is and how often it is available via the Forte, and her basic attack 4s, all of that, she might actually work as a main DPS in the game mode as well. If I'm frankly being honest, it's very fast to get her Forte circuit. Zani is going from tier 0.5 to tier 0. After further testing, we won't sugarcoat it, Zani is a beast in WhiWa, not just tower. She has several high damaging cleave abilities with high enough damage to wipe out enemy waves with just one Nightfall. All of her other abilities also deal great damage and are enough to wipe out some enemy waves too. This is the thing. She has a specially tailored bonus to her right now in Whimpering Waste that I feel like might be influencing a lot of her performance. Yeah, this is up to like 136% spectral damage bonus. Most people would believe that's like a lot. And so that's probably one of the biggest damage increases we've ever seen in the history of the game on one of these. And so the end result kind of is, yeah, units that deal spectral damage. Free 3-cost echo? No, this is like 4 3-cost echoes. This stacks up 4 times. It's 36% times 4. Yeah, 144% at 4 stacks. That sounds illegal. So, yeah, I would hope that Zani and Phoebe do get buffed up or do get bumped up in these rankings, seeing how strong that fucking artifact, whatever that thing is. Overall, Zani's sustained damage during her entire rotation leads to great performances, but to access this full potential, she needs Phoebe, which is non-negotiable, else her value goes down. So she retains her partner tag, but qualifies for tier 0 under the assumption Phoebe is her teammate. I would like to see how Zani performs even with Phoebe without like a token that shills her this much. That's my point of view, because I think that this token is what allows most Zanis with Phoebe to start like one-shotting waves. The second she has to use a second Nightfall to kill a wave, it's not good. Because essentially, her benefit in Whimpering Waste is her simply using one Nightfall to go ahead and clear, right, multiple waves at once. The second she has to go into another attack chain, consume more blaze, that means that if she goes into like that second attack chain to clear, her efficiency drops down dramatically because she only has like a set amount of attacks that she's able to do. And so without this, I'm skeptical. Who knows if she's actually like that amazing. Phoebe is going to bump up 2 rankings and also have the partner tag added because of Kachona, right? Phoebe is so good right now with that unit in multi-wave content. She has her reliability and her easiness and her ease of use has also increased dramatically. Enables her to go from being a dual DPS quickswap character to an easy nuker across multiple waves, and she has her own grouping as well. Here's the issue. She needs Kachona for this, so she gets the partner tag in relation to her, but the expert tag was removed because she's fucking brain dead to play now, as long as you're using Shakona on your team. Now we got Phoebe. In her hybrid role, is going up from tier 1 to tier 0.5 because she's in both states. One is absolution, the other is confession. With Zani's rise to tier 0, we deem it fair to have confession Phoebe in tier 0.5 with the partner tag specifically denoting to her. The reason why Phoebe isn't tier 0 here like she is in TOA is because unlike Rosia, she is unable to carry 2 archetypes, basic or havoc damage dealers in the case of Rosia, to good performance by herself. As Rosia's presence is much more felt this way, Phoebe stays in tier 0.5. So Phoebe's only tier 0.5 because she works in one team with one character. Rosia is able to be used with any basic attacker in the game. You can use her with a Brant, you can use her with a Camellia, you can use her with a Havoc Rover, you can use her with any Havoc damage dealer, to be honest. She just supports way more teams and way more units and has way more flexibility compared to a confession mode Phoebe. That's the change log. I would say overall, I understand the scope of the changes. I understand the scope of the changes and everything going on. However, I do wonder how much of it is just based on like the environmental conditions of this update, which are giga fucking shilling Spectral Frazzle in the TOA with a 100% damage amp on Frazzle and giga shilling just spectral damage dealers as a whole in WhiWa, where we have like 144% spectral damage on a token. So yeah, maybe that has something to do with it. We'll just have to see when the next reset for those game modes come. Let's get into the actual tier list itself, see the placement of all the units. I think we'll just go from tier 0 all the way down and then just kind of like look at it that way. Actually, no, let's start with the roles first. All right, so in tier 0 now, after the adjustments, we're gonna have Carlotta, Phoebe, and Zani. I'm gonna be real here. I actually feel like Phoebe in general, maybe mine's just like not as well built as other people's. I actually feel like she's one of my weaker characters. From the perspective of, I feel like my Camellia, my Jinxie, And a couple of my other units would kind of actually clear faster. Simply due to the fact that, I mean, I don't feel like she does like the most crazy amount of damage ever, but I think her ranking on here is based, again, off of S0, R0. Remember that. These rankings are based off of S0, R0, ladies and gentlemen. No signatures built into here. And she has really, really good free-to-play options. She's one of the better budget characters because her best sub-DPS is Spectral Rover, who is literally free. That's something to keep in mind. Carlotta's on here as well. Again, she's the easiest unit to play in the game. And then Zani's going to be on here, assuming you have Phoebe. And if you don't, she's like, probably like, I don't know, either like tier 1.5 or like tier 1. I think it's a little bit interesting. I think they might have to reevaluate the power rankings because you're rating all these characters at like S0, R0 with like their best in slot teammate. And so it's like some characters have a lot more like flexibility on the teammate side. If Zani's gonna be rated with her best in slot of like Phoebe, it's like, you know, Jinxie has like 2 best in slots. And so does her having more flexibility mean that she should be higher on the tier list, right? Jinxie can use either Jeja or Cantarella and still have very, very, very similar power levels. Is that sort of strength, is that sort of flexibility something that should be incorporated into her ranking? Because she can make use of 2 units and have basically equal levels of performance. Camellia, on the other hand, that's going to be the other person that's going to be in tier 0.5 as well. And again, the whole flexibility factor of Camellia, one of Camelia's best teammates is Sanhua, who's a 4-star unit, and also one of the best 4-star units in the game. Is that enough for her to be considered higher ranking as well? That's something to keep in mind. Now, they ranking them based off of speedruns. I think we went over a post, Sarah, where it was said that we're ranking them not based off of speedruns. So I think Sarah just might be joking. I feel like if Phoebe is going to be ranked relatively high because of her best in slot teammate being Spectral Rover, who's free, I wonder what flexibility in teammates and still receiving best in slot performance, I wonder if that should be factored in, because that's 2 considerations that you should be having for Camellia and Jinxie. That's my take. Now let's move on to the tier 1 meta characters, and this is where we're actually finding the most possible units on this list. We're gonna have Brant in as a DPS. Yeah, Brant uses very affordable teammates in Sanhua to have stuff going on. Flexibility is a factor for hybrid support, not DPS. Yeah, we got Sweat over here. I remember when Phoebe was ranked tier 0, it was because she's one of the most affordable characters in the game. Because you just like pull her, you have Spectre over S6 for free, and like that, I feel like that was factored into their ranking. That's what I remember from the 2.1 tier list. Maybe that's not a thing anymore and she's just like actually powerful. But yeah, that was just my take on it. Brant is still really, really strong as a DPS. I think with Brant's weapon, he probably gets bumped up super high, maybe even to like tier 0.5 or tier 0. But without Brant having a signature, which is one of the strongest signatures in the game on him, I can see why his ranking is a little bit lower. All right, so we got the response with Sweat. It's factored for Mortifi or S Rover, not Phoebe, actually. Phoebe is just good with her teammates, accessible or not. Okay, maybe I'm just not seeing her full potential then, because I'm gonna be real here. Just from my personal experience, it doesn't feel like that strong to me. She feels like okay, but it's not like, oh my gosh, she's like destroying everything. Now we got Encore. I think Encore, I low-key think these 2 might need to be dropped down. I'm just going to be honest. I feel like these 2 units feel way too clunky to be in tier 1 with these 3. The difference between using these 2 units over here, Encore and Havoc Rover, and using these 2 over here, for the average player that's just going to be like looking at a tier list online and then using the units, it's like the gap in performance and the gap in results between these 2. I understand they're free to play friendly, but the gap in performance between these 2 is going to be so insane, it's ridiculous. You take anybody using Brant, Jian, Zhang Liao, you get like 5 runs on average from them, and then 5 runs on their Encore Havoc Rover. I feel like these characters will be like 10, 20 seconds faster every single time. It's just, from my personal experience, they're so much clunkier in relationship to everybody that you're seeing over here. It's just the performance that's going to occur. They almost need to like expert tag +2s and just be ranked way lower. That's just my point of view. They're not as hard to play as like Calcaro and stuff like that, but it's just nobody really gets that much mileage out of these guys. Like, there's a reason why nobody, like, builds them. Of course, they're, like, free and stuff, but it's also just, like, they feel like shit to play. That's just my point of view. Based on the reasonings that we saw over here, Jian doesn't have his best-in-slot sub-DPS. He could be bumped up. Zhang Liao's hypercarry team does, like, low-key dog shit damage. Brant was measured with Molten Rift set in this tier list. Okay, probably with tie-breaking courage, and then his signature, he's like, okay, he's tier 0. Anyways, we got tier 1.5 with Dan Jin. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like everything below tier 1 is like... So she's actually like tier 1 when she's played well, but then it's like she's also the only one in tier 1.5. That's why I feel like dropping these two down to 1.5, it feels like it would make more sense, at least in my opinion. And then maybe put expert tags on these two and then drop them down to tier 1.5, because I've already gone through the reasoning. Now we have tier 2 with an expert tag plus 2 Calcharo. Yeah, these guys haven't changed in a really, really long time. They're all just kind of shit. They all kind of feel like shit to play. Calcaro can be really good if you get really sweaty with it, but he just feels like shit to play, so nobody does it. Yeah, it turns out like feeling good to play is like a really big factor for usability most of the time. But yeah, expert tag plus 2, that sort of thing. I kind of see what you mean, but then Danjin needs... I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the only problem with Danjin, Sweat, the only problem I have with Danjin is that she's low HP. Her kit actually feels kind of smooth to play, even as a DPS. It's just like you have a lot of reliance on dodge counters, but it's like Rover and Encore both have like just lame ass animations that feel super clunky. Danjin at the very least feels like smooth. She just has the condition of being one shot all the time, but she feels very smooth. But like Rover is like doing Rover's basic attack chain in his forte mode makes me want to uninstall the game. That's just my point of view. Like I want to uninstall the game when I'm using Rover and he like the wings come out. I'm just like, fuck this, bro. It feels so bad. That's my take on it and why I don't like them and why I feel like they maybe could be dropped down. That's just the free-to-play. I get the free-to-play point of view, but like there's a difference between free-to-play and never pulling anything. If you're playing Havoc Rover as a day one player in 2025, you just didn't fucking pull any character in the game. And that's different from a free-to-play. That's gonna be the DPS part of the tier list. Now let's get into the sub-DPSs. Kachona over in here as like the queen of debuffs, enabling every single archetype, going ahead and being tier 0. Very nice. Phoebe tier 0 because she works with Zani. I mean, I guess this is the thing, right? If Phoebe is only gonna be tier 0.5 in Whimpering Wastes, because she only supports one archetype, can't Phoebe also be considered tier 0.5 in TOA because she's the most useless unit in the game if you're not using her with Zani? Straight up, she only works with one character in one team, just like she is in WhiWa, and the only reason she's tier 0.5 in WhiWa is because of the exact same reason. You put this unit on any other team in confession mode, she's dog shit. She's fucking worthless. The worst unit in the game. She works with Spectral Rover? No, she does not. If you use main DPS Spectral Rover and confession mode Phoebe, you might just not clear. And this is the thing, guys. She's tier 0.5 with a partner tag here. So using the partner tag as a reason doesn't, I mean, it doesn't like work here because she still has it here. I personally think if we're going to be using flexibility as a reason to drop the hybrid characters down, which Sweat said has been done, I don't think she can be tier 0 in TOA if we use her lack of flexibility as a reason to bump her down in WhiWa. That's just my take. If we were looking for like more uniformity and stuff that makes sense. I'm not gonna lie, we 100% consider this. We just need Rosia too strong to slap her into T0 to be fair. But I can totally consider dropping her down to tier 0.5 in TOA. Yeah, that's just my point of view. And you can just say she's effectively one of the strongest sub DPSs in the game, but she only works on one team with one fucking character. And so that's just like enough to, you know, that lack of flexibility is enough to drop. Because this is the thing. I just wouldn't want somebody to be like, oh, wow, Confession Phoebe's the best support, the best hybrid support in the game. She's so amazing. And then you don't have Zani and you're like, wait, this unit fucking doesn't do anything. Sanhua, great to still have her on here. She still works on like, with the addition of Brant and his hypercarry team, she's still like very, very, very good, very strong still. She still supports Camellia. She outperforms Rosia for a lot of people. Main thing being, if you have an S0 Rosia and you're against an enemy like the Dragon of Dirge and he keeps like fucking punching you out of the air when you're trying to do like your 3 slams, that shit happens so often. I would rather just use Sanhua versus Rosia against certain bosses in the TOA. It's like ridiculous. The amount of times that this stupid little pixie gets like fucking obliterated is insane. Now we got Jeja over here too. She supports 2 of the best DPS characters in the game still to this day. We got her as the exclusive Carlotta support, and she also supports Jancy. Yeah, you can't really get too much more simple than that. Now we also have Mortifi in tier 0.5. I mean, bro's still good. He deals like the most damage out of like all the sub DPS characters in the game. Like low key, he almost deals more damage than the limited 5 stars. And his buff is still really good. His teams are still really good. Now we got the meta characters. Brand. Do keep in mind, this is because this is at S0, R0, bro literally just doesn't really deal any damage. Or he does, but he doesn't have his full capabilities of like liberation off cooldown. And at S0, R0 on like Overture, his damage really suffers. Cantarella feels like Kachota, but worse. Cantarella feels like shit to play and doesn't really have her best teammates because she has like this whole like echo skill synergy that like has yet to be developed. She doesn't have anybody that benefits from Havoc and Resonance skill damage. I think she'll be bumped up in the future. That's just what it seems like. She just needs more pieces, but she feels worse, way worse than Kachota to actually use. Straight up. We ain't slandering. Guys, nobody uses this unit. Straight up, nobody wants to use this unit. Like, the only people that want to use this unit are like those that are probably spend like more time masturbating than actually playing this game. She's one of the most awful feeling units in the game. You like enter on field with her, you use her heavy attack to enter delusive dive, and you have no clue what you're doing. Her visual clarity is non-existent. It's like you try to rotate through your kit throughout her kit, and you're just like, what is going on? Don't lie. She like moves around like 400 times. You just watch her. The only thing I'm watching when I play her is her Forte circuit going down. That is the only thing I'm paying attention to. How many stacks she has on her Forte circuit and if her enhanced skill is ready yet. I'm like almost ignoring what's on the screen. That's just my take. She feels like just weird. Chang Li is still over here with the expert tag +2. We'll see if these 2 characters get adjusted with the release of Lupa, and if Lupa does actually benefit from Chang Li's outro skill. I'm still hoping she does because, yeah, I feel like part of Chang Li's ranking not necessarily being as good is the fact that, bro, she still has no recipient for her fucking outro skill that actually benefits from it. They're just not in the game yet. Rosia's tier 1 because of how, let's be honest, she feels like kind of shit to use in the TOA. I already mentioned she gets like smacked out of the air at S0 by pretty much like a fucking light gust of wind. I much rather prefer Sanhua, who has built-in interruption resistance, faster rotations, and doesn't rely on her personal damage as much because of those faster rotations. It's just, I don't like it. I don't like her, bro. Yinlin, I think you should bump Yinlin down. I'm gonna be real. I think she should be in tier 1.5. I don't think she's good anymore. I think in the TOA, she's kind of just fucking I think she's ass. I think she's bad. I honestly think we need to rip off the band-aid. Yinlin is the worst limited 5-star in the game. And I think she needs to like solidify that position by being the lowest ranked one. In every single team you run her on, there is a better option. Yinlin's weapon is tier 0. Yinlin is like tier 2, tier 1.5, bro. She's just bad. Everyone was saying Yinlin's gonna be future-proof. Nah, bro, she's the worst unit in the game. She is the worst unit in the game. She even got a new Echo set, and she's still fucking bad. Nah, that's Chang Li. The thing is, you can fix Chang Li by pulling Brand. I don't know how you fix this fucking unit. What do you do to fix her? Like, what? You can't make her rotations feel like less shit. Just compare using her to every other sub. Even Cantarella feels better to play than her, bro. Like, we have so many sub DPS units in the game right now that you can draw comparisons to. I mean, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fuck it, 8. We'll use Kachona as like the last comparison. Everyone just feels better to use than her. And her buffs and damage aren't even that good. I think she should be bumped down, to be honest. I think she's the worst. I think she's the worst limited 5-star in the game. Straight up. I think she's the worst. Now we got Danjin, Spectral Rover. I think Spectral Rover low-key could be bumped up at this point. They maybe should trade spots with Yinlin, actually. I feel like Spectral Rover as like a DPS that will like, or a sub DPS that also like heals. They can be used on like so many teams as like a slot in for like a shorekeeper or a Varina that like deals damage as well. And with their, like, scalability, you might as well count them as having, like, fucking Emerald of Genesis in their ranking. And it's just, I just feel like they're a very, very solid unit that feels great on so many teams. And then they even have, like, the ability to, like, invest even further by pulling Chang Li signature, too, for, like, even, like, more scaling into, like, more well-invested accounts. I think it's solid. Yang Yang, I mean, it's just, like, these two, I don't think anyone uses them anymore, but they're still strong. John Shit is still dog shit. Add air erosion to her kit. Tao Chi, I think still should be bumped up to tier 1.5 because of how well she works with Carlotta. Alto is ass, but maybe with Kachona, Alto's going to get a lot better. I need to test out the Kachona, Alto, and Gian team, but I also don't want to test that out because I have no healer, and Gian will just get obliterated. And Lumi's a rat. He's just not that good because her outro skill is 10 seconds. Supports. Shorekeeper Veruda in S. Spectral Rover in 1. I guess maybe that's the part that we're talking about over here. Vija's still ass because she takes forever to use, and her dodge counter and her like entry attack don't generate any of her forte. If those did, she would probably be like tier 1 or tier 0.5, to be honest. Yohu's the worst unit in the game. And then Arrow Rover is just fucking bad because once they get more refinements of their weapon, and once they get more of their sequence nodes, I'm pretty sure Arrow Rover becomes like tier 1 or like tier 0.5. But like at the current moment with their S1 with an R1 weapon, they're fucking dog shit. And Yan Wu is like, if you like, he's literally like Jinxi's like, he's like Jinxi's like slave. But like he also like isn't even that good with Jinxi. He just doesn't do anything, bro. They might as well just delete this unit from the game. Like, at this point, just give out Yinlin for free and then delete this unit from the game and just kind of like call it there. Like, that'd probably be the best way to solve this problem. That's gonna be my entire overview of this tier list. I think that this was a bit of a long one, but I wanted to make sure that we were pretty in depth with everything that's going on. Glad we had Sweat on to talk through some of the more controversial changes and actually get his feedback on some of my suggested changes for it moving forward. But I would say as a whole, yeah, this tier list might have pissed some people off, but I don't think that there's that much in here for me to really, you know, for most people, as long as they're like, you know, they have a baseline knowledge of the game, to get too upset about, other than put that fucking expert tag back, bro. Yeah, that's the only thing. Like, why the fuck did you take it off, bro? Let me know what you all think. Peace.